Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel Say What's Real TV. This review is for Tyler Perry's Sistas, Season 7, Episode 9, Three's a Crowd. So we open up the episode at the hospital with Zach waiting for Karen. I'm not sure why. He's already given his blood work, but whatever. She comes in there. She's walking like she's scared, nervous, all of that. And he's like, well, what did they say? She's stumbling over her words and she tells him, I think you're going to have to give double the child support. So she tells Zach that she's having twins and he's like, are you serious? Like, I'm having twins? And she's like, no, I'm having them. And I thought that was interesting for her to say, no, I'm having them instead of saying, no, we are. To Zach, it didn't matter what she said or didn't say. He was instantly excited, overjoyed. Oh, that means I'm having a Zach and a Zackeisha. He just was over the top, just excited about the whole situation. So he asked her, are they mine? And she says, no. The results are not in yet. We'll get them in a day or two. Zach says, I don't even care about all that. I double-barreled that B.
Are you sure about that? Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
Karen didn't mention to Zach that the kids are in two separate sacks. Not that Zach would have understood what any of that meant anyway and what the possibilities could be. Zach says he's super excited. The kids are going to have everything, double this, double that, double Benzes when they turn 16. I'm like, Zach, slow your roll, okay? So Zach, he basically gives us a reenactment of the salon scene when Karen popped back up and he realized she was still alive. He's hugging her, looking at her, can't believe it, hugging her, looking at her, all of that. Of course, here comes Fatima. So I'm guessing that the two of them must have thought they were going to get the results today. So Zach, not giving a damn about who was walking through the door and not shying away from how he was feeling in his excitement, he runs to Fatima like, baby, guess what? I'm having twins. And he's telling Karen, show her the picture, show her. And then he has the audacity to add to that, I put two of them things in there. Let me just say, I'm all for a man being excited about having kids and taking care of his kids. I love to see it, but Zach is going to have to grow up quick and in a hurry. And of course, Fatima's face drops and she looks at the picture and she can't believe it. She's like stuck. Fatima is like, wow. And Zach is asking her, is she okay? Like, what do you think? What do you think, Zach? Anyway, Karen, she steps to the side to go talk to Mama Lisa, asking her to meet her at the salon. Karen, she leaves, and Fatima, she's still over there in a trance. The only one on cloud nine is Zach. He's steady asking Fatima, is she okay? Like, what is going on? Fatima's like, look, I got to go back to work. We know Fatima is lying because Andy gave her the rest of the day off, right? He's like, well, okay, I'll meet you back home. I love you. He goes in for a kiss and Fatima was like, child, please, not today. Walk the hell off, leaving him standing there looking stupid. So we get a very quick scene with Sabrina setting up her little manipulation by calling Rich, asking him to go out on this double date with Danny and Tony. And he agreed to go. So we go over there to the law firm and Andy gets a phone call from Karen, basically asking her to come over later. She wanted all the ladies to be there because she had news to share and she wanted to say it in person. So Andy, she gets off the phone with Karen. She has a visitor in her office. It's Penelope. She called her over there to talk to her. Penelope, she comes in and Andy's asking her, how are you? How are you feeling? Penelope says, I'm confused and I'm scared for my child. And I'm wondering why all of a sudden Penelope is scared for her child. Is it because you're like 2 to 3 months past your due date? You're not trying to go to the doctor to see nothing about it. You don't talk about it. And it can't be because of Gary, because you should have left Gary alone back in that law firm when you found out about Andy and the other 30,000 women he was sleeping with unprotected when he could have easily given you and your child some type of disease. Girl, miss us with all that because you're still with him. Here it is 3 to 4 months later. So Andy, she gets real serious and she tells Penelope for her safety and the child, she needs her to get as far away from Gary as she can. As if everything Penelope has already found out about Gary was not enough, she sits here like Boo Boo the Fool and asks Andy why. Like, girl, quiet as it's kept, you did not need Andy to tell you this. You should have been hauled ass. So Andy, she then tells her she had a friend of hers, which we know to be Brenton, do some digging and that the information he came up with is not pretty. So then Andy proceeded to show her a picture of Kimberly Potter, which was Gary's high school sweetheart and girlfriend that went missing after their junior prom. Andy goes into the whole story about what happened and basically in a nutshell, Gary and the girl got into it because she was drinking. He didn't want her drinking. She didn't want to leave with him. He claims that he left. She said she would get her own ride, and that was the last time he saw her. The police came out. They talked to everyone that was there. The people claim that they saw the two of them arguing, but they never saw the girl leave. She went missing. Her body was never found, and the lead detective always believed that Gary had something to do with her disappearance. Penelope, she is clearly shaken by this news that's probably done happened over 15 years ago, but she wasn't shaken when she saw the passport. She wasn't shaken when she saw the warrant, but she wants to know how a guy like Gary can have them all fooled. Andy tells her there's more, and she's like all hysterical, like, oh, I can't take anymore. Like, how could I have missed it? How could you have missed it? Andy tells her sometimes we as women, we miss the red flags when we really want something. So Penelope, she's crying, can't believe she's having a baby from this psychopath. And Andy tells her she has a plan. She needs her to follow it. She has a friend that can hide her away where Gary can't find her. And she continues by telling her to be careful, go home, pack your stuff bit by bit, and hide them. And as she's telling Penelope all of this, her phone is ringing. And we all know that it's Gary. So the camera then pans over there to Gary's office, and he's acting a whole donkey over there because she is not answering the phone and is nowhere to be found. He's like, where are you, B? Like, Gary, what do you want with the girl? What do you want? So then we get a scene where we see Sabrina calling Maurice, and I thought she was calling to tell him that she started her whole process. But no, she was calling to give the dirt on Karen, telling Maurice that she was down there to get her DNA test. So, of course, Maurice was all for it. He was like, tell me more. But before they can get into it, Karen beeps in on the other line. And Maurice was like, oh, hell no, I don't want nothing to do with that. I just got out of jail. And basically, this is just letting us know that Sabrina is going behind her friend's back, talking about their business to Maurice. And you could tell that Sabrina knew she was doing something out of character the way she looked at the phone when she saw that it was Karen. So Maurice, he hangs up and she clicks over, and Karen basically just invited her over later that evening with the rest of the girls so she can share the news. So we go over there to Gary's office, and Miss Marie comes in there, and at first he acts like he's so into his work, and she's like, are you just going to act like you don't see when a woman is in your presence? He damn near bust his kneecap trying to get up. And she was like, you know, nice little office, but you need to get some scented plug-ins because it smells like death and deception up in this piece. He starts lying, talking about his cleaning lady has been out sick or something. And she was like, look, you are full of ish and have been ever since I've known you. And wanted him to cut the crap and get to the point of why he drug her down there. So Gary tells her he was trying to get her to invest with him again. And there's also something he wants to warn her about. She quickly let him know that won't be happening again after he decimated the Archer Foundation funds from before. Gary says that wasn't his fault. The market took a turn, and she said, but somehow you managed to survive. So now he wants to deflect and tell her he really didn't bring her there to bring up the past. He tells her that he knows that she's looking to use Andy for her attorney for the divorce, and she's like, well, where did you hear that from? And why is that any of your concern? So he then proceeds to try to tell her the different reasons why she shouldn't hire Andy, basically trying to say she's untrustworthy, shady, all that kind of different stuff. And I'm like, it's the irony for me because basically you're describing your damn self. So Miss Marie was like, oh, I'm intrigued. Like, what's your proof? So he goes on to this whole little thing about how she's sleeping with one of the partners at the firm and how she's involved in this whole FBI investigation, and then says that he met her while she was representing his wife in their divorce. So he goes on to say that Andy actually seduced him and mentions Jasmine as his wife again. And Miss Marie was like, you mean your ex-wife? So that makes it seem as if their divorce really is not final. So when he presented those papers to Andy, when he proposed to her, that probably was all just fake or whatever. But at this point, do it really matter when it comes to Gary? He has done so much stuff to where, child, that would not even surprise me. And I really did love Miss Marie in this scene because she sat there and listened to Gary with that mumbo jumbo and played it off and told him, look, I am so moved by your concern for my best interests. Told him that you should know me well enough to know that I don't do anything on a whim and that I've done my homework. And she basically lets him have it. She tells him that she knows that he is the reason the FBI is investigating the law firm. She also knows that he bought Andy the Rolls Royce and the penthouse and says that Andy must have it going on in the bedroom and that he sounds like a bitter, rejected man. She throws in Gary's face that Andy is with Jordan, who is the councilman, and he has to interject talking about, oh, he's not councilman yet. She told him to put his feelings in his pocket because jealousy does not look good on him. She goes on to let him know, I don't know what you thought you were going to get by telling me all of this, but all you did do was confirm what I already knew about you, and calls him a small narcissistic fish in a big overachieving pond and suggested that he swim along before he gets hurt. So Miss Marie, she walks out, leaving him sitting there feeling like the trash that he is. So we go over there to the salon and Pam is online with her followers as always. And that's when Karen finds out that Pam has been storing her products in her supply room. So my question is Pam just really being sneaky and doing things because she knows that Karen is not really paying attention to the salon like she's supposed to, and she knows she can just get away with it because Karen has so much on her plate, she can't focus on every single thing? Or is Karen just overreacting and should go ahead and let Pam do the things that she's doing anyway? So Mama Lisa, she comes in and her and Pam, they chop it up for a minute, and she asked her how does she like the complimentary jar of Rooster Richards custard she gave her. Mama Lisa liked it very much and said she needed to get a second jar. So apparently Pam is doing well with her products so far. So Karen and Mama Lisa, they go to her new office, which is quite nice, and she breaks the news to her that she's having twins. Mama Lisa, of course, is surprised and she's shocked and she can't believe it. And Karen lets her know that, one was hidden behind the other one. So she asks Karen, was she okay? And were the twins okay? And she said everyone was fine. Karen tells her that she's kind of shocked. She's still letting it all sink in. She's happy. She didn't really say that convincingly to me, but she made sure she said that Zach was excited and that he's finally believing that, I guess, the twins are his. So Mama Lisa was like, oh, so it's confirmed that he is the father. And she had to let her know that the results are not back yet. But Karen once again stresses that she knows that Zach is the father. So the two of them have a moment and Mama Lisa just lets her know that she is happy for her and the twins. So we go over there to Maurice's where he gets a phone call from Grayson letting him know that he was going to pick up some wine and bring over for dinner. He wanted to know which one did Maurice want, white or red. Maurice acted like he didn't want to say he wanted both, and basically that's what he decided to do, just bring one of each. So when Grayson gets over there, he's impressed by the dinner that he cooked, and he was like, do you always cook like this? And Maurice was like, it depends on the person, basically meaning he likes Grayson. So Grayson tells Maurice that he likes where the relationship is heading and asks him, does he plan on continuing his fixation page? So of course, Maurice want to know, do you have a problem with it? And he says he doesn't want to sound like a hypocrite because he knows that's how he met him. And he tells Maurice that he's thinking long term and doesn't know if he'll be comfortable with Maurice continuing on with the page. So Maurice lets him know that it's what's paying the bills right now and he loves his money. And truth be told, he wasn't thinking long term, but he was waiting to get his job back down to the bank. So Grayson then says maybe it'll happen soon and that he's not trying to judge him or make any demands. He just wants to know that what's mine is all mine. And I don't really know what to make of Grayson just yet. He's cute and all, but he's giving me some red flags. I'm getting a control freak on the horizon. And I guess Maurice loved him calling him his, He's already telling him how much money he has saved up 6 months, to pay his bills. And then all of a sudden, Grayson is like, oh, you got it like that? Then maybe you should continue. Like, no, sir, you can't have it both ways. Either you want him to stop or you don't. But Maurice, he didn't question it too tough. He was willing to say goodbye to what he had going on, and they toasted to that. And I ask you guys, would you be willing to give up your little hustle because you meet someone and they don't want you to do it anymore? Really not even knowing where the relationship is headed, because we see that Grayson gets an attitude real quick and he'll walk out on your ass real fast. So we go over there to Karen's house. The ladies, they all get there. Andy, of course, she's a little late. They get in there, and before Karen can get out what she's trying to say, Danny interrupts and said, I knew it. Zach's not the daddy. So Karen tells them the news is I'm having twins. Sabrina and Andy, they are ecstatic. They're overjoyed. They're happy for her. Danny, on the other hand, is looking like, okay, Ann. So Danny says, so is Zach the father? She has to say once again that the results are not in yet. So Sabrina, she makes a little remark like, well, Karen, we, meaning her and Andy, we're excited for you. Basically saying like, we don't know about her, but we're excited for you. So she gets a little text message from Rich and she has to go pick him up because his car got towed. Danny also gets up to leave with Sabrina and she tells Karen, congrats on your buy one, get one free bundle of joy, but this could have been a text. Now, what I would like to see is when Danny goes back to see Cretia, I want her to let us know, where did the disconnect start between her and Karen? Was it in college? Was it when she met Zach? We heard Zach say that he wanted to talk to Danny first, but then he ended up with Karen. Now, they came with a couple of more different things because we know in season 5 when Karen read them little letters, she claimed they met on some bus or some mess. I don't know. We don't care about that. We went back to the original. We need to know, where did this stem from to where these two really don't get along, but apparently have been tolerating each other for years. So we go over there to Zach and Fatima's and she comes down in her robe. Zach is on a computer looking up baby stuff. And he's trying to show her all these little different things he's looking up. And she's trying to have a conversation. She's like, Zach, Zach, Zach. And he's like, well, why are you yelling? Because you're not listening. How about that? So we finally get a mention of Michael in the dialogue, and Fatima asks him where he is, and he says he's at the therapist. So apparently he's been at the therapist this entire time, all damn day long. They over there in pajamas, but he's still at the therapist. Now make that make sense. Zach, shouldn't you still be in your hospital sweater somewhere sitting outside waiting for him to be finished with therapy or engaged in the therapy session since he's been there all day? I'm quite sure it's some part of the therapy where you need to be adapting to what he is going through as well. So Fatima tells him, look, this is too much. We got to talk about this twin thing because we done went from 1 kid to 2 kids, now possibly 3. Zach tells her, look, you're worried about nothing. I'm like, what you mean worried about nothing? So she flat out asked him, has he even thought about how they're going to work things out with her being in law school, Michael with special needs, and then adding on 2 more kids? Like, come on, Zach. He keeps saying, look, I got it. Like, no, you don't. So Fatima tells him it's just too much. It's just too much. So she gets up and goes upstairs and he's like, so you're just going to walk off? She's like, look, I need a minute. So he's sitting there like, wow, like we're back to that. I feel like Zach thinks that just because he goes and buy up all this different stuff, materialistic things and toys, that's going to be enough to get through with taking care of these kids. You're going to have to feed them, bathe them, spend time. Michael needs extra attention. You can't just drop him off somewhere and leave him there all day. Now, what's going to happen if Fatima leave his behind and he's sitting there to deal with it on his own? That's going to be his wake-up call, and that's what he needs. And I guarantee he'll become mature real quick. So we see Fatima put her work clothes back on and went down to, I guess, Agave to have a few drinks. And she runs into Danny. So they sit down and they start chopping it up over some wine. And Fatima asks her, like, what answers are you looking for? So she goes into the story yet again about Tony and his kids, how they came down here suddenly because of the mom getting deployed, how they saw her naked, seeing her for the first time. Girl, nobody told you to be in that man's office half naked. Like, girl, his kids are not going anywhere. They are a package deal. And for you to sit there and say that you want things to go back to how they used to be when the kids were not around is insane, because you knew that this man had kids and you made a decision to continue this relationship with him. It seems real simple. You've only been dating him 3 months. Go ahead and leave Tony the hell alone. Why are we dragging this storyline out like Danny can't eat, sleep, or think straight because of these kids when she knew they existed in the first place? And I'm over it. So Fatima, she brings up Zach and all of his kids. She basically says that it is a lot, it's too much. She knows that she's going to love his kids. She just feels like Zach does not take her feelings into consideration. So Fatima, she tells Danny that they have a lot in common, and Danny says, yeah, they're both dating sperm banks. Zach is just a player from the Himalayas, hunching everything all over the city with different baby mamas. All we know about Tony is he was married and had 2 kids within his marriage. Those 2 are not the same. Sorry. So they give each other advice about expressing to their man how they feel about their situations. And in walks Sabrina, Tony, and Rich. So Sabrina, she introduces the guys and asks Fatima does she want to join them. She says no, of course not. So they get into the dinner and all Sabrina and Tony are talking about is his kids. So they're going on and on and on. Rich and Danny, they're giving each other the eye like, really? So Rich is like, Danny, how are you doing? How was your day? Danny is like, yeah, I'm still sober. Like, how's the fuel? So, of course, they're being sarcastic with it. So Sabrina was like, sorry, we got carried away. Danny asks Tony, like, well, where are the kids, by the way? And he says they're with his aunt. And that if he lets her know in a certain amount of time, she'll go ahead and keep the kids overnight for him. But Danny was acting like she didn't give a damn if she kept the kids overnight or not. It was like, do whatever you want. So Tony decided he was going to give the auntie a call. So Rich tells Sabrina he knows that he was boring her on the drive over talking about his car, but he meant to ask how her day was. She goes and say, oh, I got some good news. I'm thinking this girl getting ready to talk about herself. She proceeds to tell him the good news was Karen was having twins. Yet again, throwing kids up in this man's face. Now, clearly, he knows what she's doing, and I think she's going to end up pushing him away. But at the same time, I'm not understanding why they are still together. She was supposed to leave him on her birthday, remember? If he can't get with the program, he had to go. What happened to that? So they give this toast to Karen having twins. Later, we see everyone ready to go. They're hugging and cuddling and kissing and smooching and ready for dessert. So Rich says his mechanic is calling. He had to excuse himself to go get the call. And all of a sudden, Tony claims he had to go to the restroom. I don't know what all that was about, but whatever. So while they're gone, Danny tells Sabrina get up out of her head, give Rich some coochie, and let Rich fertilize the eggs. And maybe she wouldn't have to go through the whole process of freezing them. So the guys come back and they bring up who's going to get the check. And Danny says, he got 2 kids and me. So Tony was like, they got to split the check. So the next thing we know, we see Danny and Tony making it back to her house in a hot and steamy session. What is probably going to happen when it comes to Danny, because she is so worried about how she feels about kids, Danny will probably end up pregnant. So we go back over there to Zach and Fatima's. She's back in her pink robe. Zach, he's on the sofa asleep. So apparently he done got up, went and got Michael, fed him, put him to bed, and he fell asleep on the couch. That's how long Fatima has been gone, right? But anyway, Fatima, she apologizes to Zach yet again, this time for walking out on him because basically she felt like she wasn't being heard. She told him how she felt like he wasn't considering her feelings. He was like, you're right. I'm going to focus more on what's here, blah, blah, blah. And they basically just make up. They're going to communicate more and try to stay on the same page until next episode when he's totally oblivious to his surroundings and what's going on. But that's neither here nor there. So we go back over there to Gary's office and Hudson comes in checking on him. And Gary tells him they have to figure out this FBI stuff because the investors are on his behind. Hudson tells him he's trying to get info from his contacts over at the DOJ. Hudson tells him that it's not looking good. On top of the embezzlement, he's looking at mail, wire, and bank fraud. So Hudson asks him what happened to the billionaire bougie chick that you were going to use, and he said that it didn't work out. So apparently he thought he was going to get Miss Marie to invest with him so he can get himself out of all this mess he's in, but it backfired. But he claims he has some other resources, and Hudson tells him, well, you better start tapping in. So while they're standing there talking, Gary is trying to listen to this broadcast about Jordan and the girl that he paid to lie on him. So come to find out, the girl went to the authorities and told the truth about everything and said that all accusations were false and there's no motivation to why she even lied. So now Gary is hotter than fish grease. His blood pressure is sky high. He is smashing the laptop up. I mean, he don't even know what to do with himself. Hudson over there talking about, I guess I'll get you a new laptop. So Hudson, he apologizes to Gary about the girl and says he thought she was solid. Gary automatically blames Andy and says Miss Marie knew way too much information. So Hudson was like, well, how would Andy know? She doesn't have the range to know the type of stuff that we have going on. But just last week, Andy called Gary over to the penthouse and told him basically all the information that she knows. So yeah, he would blame her for something, right? I don't know why she told him stuff anyway. So Hudson said that the girl probably got cold feet or somebody convinced her to recant. And Gary was like, well, I need to know who that person was. Gary, he blames all the nosy snooping bees in his life. He names Andy, Penelope, and I guess the girl that he paid off to lie about Jordan. Can cause a lot of problems for them. So then Gary says to Hudson, do you remember what we talked about? Hudson says, now. And he was like, we need to take her out. And that's where the episode ends. Woo, child. Who is Gary trying to take out first? Is it the girl he paid off to lie on Jordan? Is it Andy or is it Penelope? There is no telling when it comes to that man. But did you guys see in next week's trailer how Penelope took her crazy behind self into Gary's office and showed him the picture of Kimberly Potter? Whatever happens to Penelope, it's up and it's stuck. It's whatever, okay? This episode here was written by April A.P. Powell. Drop down in the comments. Let me know what your thoughts were. As always, you guys, thanks for your support. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.